Chapter 19. Quillerin arrived home from Koki's apartment earlier than he had expected. Koki had chased him out. She said they both had to work the next day, and she had to fix her hair and iron a blouse. When he arrived at the villa veranda, Coco greeted him with a table-hopping routine that ended on the desk. The red light on the telephone was glowing. The phone had been ringing, Coco seemed to be saying, and no one had been there to answer. Quillerin dialed the switchboard. "Mr. Bunsen called you at 9 o'clock, the operator told him. "He said to call him at home if you came in before 1 a.m. Quillerin consulted his watch. It was not yet midnight, and he started to dial Bunsen's number. Then he changed his mind. He decided Koki was right about the importance of image. He decided it would not hurt to enhance his own image, the enviable one of a bachelor carousing until the small hours of the morning. Quillerin emptied his coat pockets, draped his coat on a chair back, and sat down at the desk to browse through the Tate file of newspaper clippings. Coco watched, lounging on the desktop in a classic pose known to lions and tigers, curving his tail around a Swedish crystal paperweight. The newsprint was in varying shades of yellow and brown, depending on the age of the news item. Each was rubber-stamped with the date of publication. It was hardly necessary to read the stamp. Outmoded typefaces, as well as mellowed paper, gave a clue to the date. First, Quillerin shuffled through the clippings hastily, hoping to spot a lurid headline. Finding none in a cursory search, he started to read systematically. 3 generations of Tate history in chronological disorder. 5 years ago, Tate had given a talk at a meeting of the Lapidary Society. 11 years ago, his father had died. There was a lengthy feature on the Tate Manufacturing Company, apparently one of a series on family-owned firms of long standing. Organized in 1883 for the manufacture of buggy whips, the company was now producing car radio antennas. Old society clippings showed the elder Tates at the opera or charity functions. 3 years ago, G. Vernon Tate announced his intention of manufacturing antennas that looked like buggy whips. A year later, a news item stated that the Tate plant had closed and bankruptcy proceedings were being instituted. Then, there was the wedding announcement of 24 years ago. Mr. George Vernon Tate, the son of Mr. and Mrs. Vernon H. Tate of Muggy Swamp, was taking a bride. The entire Tate family had gone to Europe for the ceremony. The nuptials had been celebrated at the home of the bride's parents, the Victor Thorvaldsons of... Quillerin's eyes popped when he read it. The Victor Thorvaldsons of Aarhus, Denmark. He leaned back in his chair and exhaled into his mustache. "Coco," he said, "what do you suppose Harry Norton is pulling off in Aarhus?" The cat opened his mouth to reply, but there was not enough breath behind his comment to make it audible. Quillerin's watch said 1 o'clock, and he hurried through the rest of the clippings until he found what he was looking for. Then he dialed Odd Bunsen's number excitedly. "Hope I didn't get you out of bed," he said to the photographer. "How was your date, you old tomcat?" Bunsen demanded. Not bad. "What were you doing on Merchant Street this morning?" "How do you know I was on Merchant Street?" "Aha! I saw you waiting for a bus on the southwest corner of Merchant and State at 11:55. "You don't miss a thing, do you?" Quillerin said. "Why didn't you stop and give me a lift?" "I was going in the other direction. Brother, you were getting an early start. It wasn't even lunchtime." "I had a doctor's appointment." "On Merchant Street? Ho, 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 ho!" "Is that all you called about? You're a nosy old woman." "Nope. I've got some information for you." "I've got some news for you, too," said Quillerin. "I found the skeleton in the Tate closet." "What is it?" a court trial. G. Vernon Tate was involved in a paternity suit. Ho, 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 that old goat. It was the gal, one of the Tate's servants. She got a settlement, too. According to these old clippings, it must have been a sensational trial. A thing like that can be a rough experience. You'd think a family with the Tate's money and position would settle out of court at any cost, Quillerin said. I covered a paternity trial in Chicago several years ago, and the testimony got plenty raw. Now, what's on your mind? What's this information you've got for me? Nothing much, said Bunsen. But if you're going to send those photographs to Tate, you'd better make it snappy. He's leaving the country in a couple of days. How do you know? I ran into Lodge Kendall at the press club. Tate's leaving Saturday morning. For Mexico? Asked Quillerin as his mustache sprang to attention. Nope, nothing as obvious as that. You'd like it if he was heading for Mexico, wouldn't you? The photographer teased. Well, where is he going? Denmark! Quillerin waked easily the next morning, after a night of silly dreams that he was glad to terminate. In one episode, he dreamed he was flying to Aarhus to be best man at the high society wedding of 2 neutered cats. Before leaving for the office, he telephoned Tate and offered to deliver the photographs of the jade the next day. He also inquired about the female cat and was appalled to hear that Tate had put her out of the house to fend for herself. Can you get her back? Quillerin asked, controlling his temper. He had a particular loathing for people who mistreated animals. She's still on the grounds, Tate said. She howled all night. I'll let her come back in the house. How many photos do you have for me? Quillerin worked hard and fast at the office that day, while the clerk in the feature department intercepted all phone calls and unwanted visitors, with the simple explanation that permits no appeal, no argument, no exceptions. Sorry, he's on deadline. Only once did he take time out, and that was to telephone the Tate's former housekeeper. Mrs. Hawkins, he said, taming his voice to an aloof drawl. This is an acquaintance of Mr. Tate in Muggy Swamp. I am being married shortly, and my wife and I will need a housekeeper. Mr. Tate recommends you highly. Oh, he does he? Said a musical voice with impudence in the inflection. Could you come for an interview this evening at the Villa Veranda? Who'll be there? Just you? Or will the lady be there? My fiancé is unfortunately in Tokyo at the moment, and it will be up to me to make the arrangements. Okie dokie. I'll come. What time? Quillerin set the appointment for 8 o'clock. He was glad he was not in need of a housekeeper. He wondered if Mrs. Hawkins was an example of Tate's ill-advised economies. By the time Mrs. Hawkins presented herself for the interview, the rain had started, and she arrived with dripping umbrella and a dripping raincoat over a gaudy pink and green dress. Quillerin noted that the dress had the kind of neckline that slips off the shoulder at the slightest encouragement, and there was a slit in the side seam. The woman had sassy eyes, and she flirted her shoulders when she walked. He liked sassy, flirtatious females if they were young and attractive, but Mrs. Hawkins was neither. With exaggerated decorum, Quillerin offered her a glass of sherry against the weather, and poured a deep amber potion from Harry Norton's well-stocked bar. He poured an exceptionally large glass, and by the time the routine matters had been covered, experience, references, salary, Mrs. Hawkins had relaxed in the cushions of a suede sofa and was ready for a chatty evening. You're one of the newspaper fellows that came to the house to take pictures, she announced at this point, with her eyes dancing at him. I remember your mustache. She waved an arm at the appointments of the room. I didn't know reporters made so much money. Let me fill your glass, said Quillerin. Aren't you drinking? Ulcers, he said with a look of self-pity. Lordy, I know all about them, said Mrs. Hawkins. I cooked for 2 people with ulcers in Muggy Swamp. Sometimes, when Mr. Tate wasn't around, she would have me fix her a big plate of French fried onion rings, and if there's anything that doesn't go with ulcers, it's French fried onion rings. But I never argued. Nobody dared argue with her. Everybody went around on tippy-toe, and when she rang that bell, everybody dropped everything and rushed to see what she wanted. But I didn't mind, because if I had my druthers, I'd rather cook for a couple of invalids than a house full of hungry brats. And I had help out there. Paulie was a big help. He was a sweet boy, and it's too bad he turned out to be no good. But that's the way it is with foreigners. I don't understand foreigners. She was a foreigner too, although it was a long time ago that she came over here. And it wasn't until near the end that she started screaming at all of us in a foreign language. Screaming at her husband too. Lordy, that man had the patience of a saint. Of course, he had his workshop to keep him happy. He was crazy about those rocks. He bought a whole mountain once, someplace in South America. It was supposed to be chock full of jade, but I guess it didn't pan out. Once he offered me a big jade brooch, but I wouldn't take it. I wasn't having any of that. Mrs. Hawkins rolled her eyes suggestively. He was all excited when he came to take pictures of his knickknacks, which surprised me because of the way he felt about the daily fluxion. She paused to drain her glass. This is good. One more little slug, and then I'll be staggering home. How did Mr. Tate feel about the fluxion? Quillerin asked casually, as he refilled Mrs. Hawkins's glass. Oh, he was dead set against it. Wouldn't have it in the house, and that was a crying shame, because everybody knows the fluxion has the best comics. But that's the way he was. I guess we all have our peculiarities. I guess I'm feeling these drinks. Eventually, she lapsed into a discourse on her former husband and her recent surgery for varicose veins. At that point, Quillerin said he would let her know about the housekeeping position, and he marched her to a taxi and gave her a $5 bill to cover the fare. He returned to the apartment just as Coco emerged from some secret hiding place. The cat was stepping carefully and looking around with cautious eyes and incredulous ears. I feel the same way, Quillerin said. Let's play the game and see if you can come up with something useful. They went to the dictionary, and Coco played brilliantly. Inning after inning, he had Quillerin stumped with ebionitism and echidna, cytodiagnosis, and Shestahova, onychophore, and opalinid. Just as Quillerin was about to throw in the sponge, his luck changed. Coco sank his claws into the front of the book, and the page opened to arene and argue. On the very next try, it was quality and quarreled. Quillerin felt a significant vibration in his mustache.